Ink and paint, ink and paint, ink and paint. Yes, it is going to be ink and paint time. Ink and paint time is upon us, people. That's what we're going to do. Well, before we do, though, let's bop on over to our edit and see what the heck's been going on. Well, it looks like Mel is poking around and he found the bag that's missing. And he's pretty excited about that. But here comes somebody. And that's Fala reacting. And then we needn't belabor the story from there. So, what are we doing, people? We, well, that's a good question. This is shot number 576. And our output settings look apropos. They look apropos. So as you can see, those of you who aren't watching, because actually there is no one watching, which is understandable since I just went live and posted the live stream like half a second ago. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to actually check my YouTube channel and make sure that this, yeah, it looks like this is live. Looks like this is working. So we got one congruent viewer. One, just one. Well, that's cool. We'll take what we can get. And tonight, what we are going to do is hopefully, well, we'll kind of build on that shot a little bit. But this is what I did. I did this pencil test, right? And so we need to, hey, Claude. So we've got to get ink and paint done. So we're going to rock and roll. We're going to move fast, baby. All right, hitting the B key, B, boom. It looks to me like our hardness is about right. Our smoothness is probably about right. And we are going to actually zip right in here and just start cranking. So, Claude Bayou. So what are you doing, Claude? How'd it turn out, man? Are you doing the Blender thing, or are you still looking at the you know, harmony or whatever? Did you take my little rant to heart? If you don't, that's okay. It's your choice. And you know, the advice I gave the other day was, believe me, from the standpoint of somebody who's kind of done all the things I was sort of telling you not to do. So trust me, man, I've done it all. Hey, Nutgut and Maria, you're actually here, and you're here on time. So that's great. Watching just the second sign, hunting down your royalty-free recordings of Vivaldi for my July 4th card I'm working on. Cool. I always thought the, you know, the Four Seasons were pretty good. Not meaning Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons, but meaning Vivaldi's Four Seasons. But Frankie Valli, you know, in the Four Seasons is pretty good too. Of course, Jersey Boys was a play and a movie that I'm very sure Maria is familiar with, since those guys actually came from her neck of the woods. Sherry! I don't think I can hit the baby note. Sherry! Yeah, I can't do it right now. I can't do it right now. If I warmed up, I could, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I need to turn off my effects settings. And recently chatted with School of Visual Arts on their YouTube channel. Okay. Thinking of going there to learn animation. Yeah, okay. Not familiar with them. But, if you need to learn animation, then you better go somewhere where you can learn animation. You know, that's actually a really good idea, I think, for someone like you, because it gets your, it does get your focus kind of off the tools and on the skill set that's common to all aspects of or I should say, the skill set that's required no matter what tools you wind up using, right? And they'll probably have some, favored tools that they tend to like and or sort of endorse, because you got to obviously teach using something. But me, I'm a Tahoma guy. That's what I am. I'm a Tahoma guy for now. For the foreseeable future. Yes, the foreseeable future. I love Valley and Vivaldi. And Frankie is still alive. He's like 80,000 years old or something. I mean, the guy. And he's still, at least the last I knew. The last I knew, the guy was still performing at like 82 years old. And still hitting those notes, baby. I didn't actually love Jersey Boys. I saw the movie, and I thought it was well cast and all that sort of stuff. So, like, sort of technically it was good, but I remember, and I don't remember why now, but I do remember being underwhelmed for some reason. But no, I always thought those guys were interesting. I always loved late December back in '63. What a very special time for me. Which was in 1974. I remember seeing them perform that on TV, and I thought it was kind of cool that Frankie wasn't actually doing all the singing. I really liked the voice of the guy that actually sang the lead on that song, which was, of course, not Frankie Valli. Of course, Frankie came in the turnaround part. Oh, I got a funny feeling when she walks in the room. Ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Great song. Great song. Don't know what the official title is. It might be December. I think it's December 1963, and it's subtitled "Oh What a Night." I think that's correct. But I don't know. I haven't done too much singing in the last couple days. I take my guitar and actually walk around my neighborhood and just play and sing, to sort of unwind sometimes. And people seem to like it. They seem to like it. Well, I'm moving fast here. We're doing ink. Okay, so now here's the bag. Gotta draw the bag. In fact, I'm actually kind of reminding myself right now to speed up a bit. I don't want to dink around with this thing. I want to just get right in there and get her done. So now, in this case, the tent. Oh, come on. I don't want a straight line. The tent, and as you can see, I need to draw the line way across there so it will fill properly. I've made that mistake before. But yeah, the edge of the tent is actually in the frame. And one other thing I should do actually is turn glasses. Well, that's cool. That's very open-minded of them. Looks like OBS just disconnected and reconnected, as it is wont to do. All right, what I should do is get these. Let's get the tent cloth blocked in here so that boy, maybe I better turn this off actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and just like click. I'm clicking so that it automatically creates frames. And now I can go in, and what I want to do is zoom out and just get these lines that are going to have to be. Now I can turn the onion skins on. It'll make a little more sense. So here we go. This is going to be wrapping around him like that and then pulling out there. This is going to be, again, this part out here obviously you won't see, so if there's a little bit of a scribble there, it doesn't matter. Here we're going to just pretty much trace this. Trace. trace. So we're doing the boring part first is what we're doing here. Right? Get the boring part done. And then we'll come back and do the fun part. Okay, so onion skins can be turned back off. As you guys know, I'm not a huge fan. Arthur Angent. Well, Arthur, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but we'll call you Arthur A. And is Tahoma better than actual OpenToonz? In animation, OpenToonz 1.4 right now, ha ha ha. Dude, Arthur, for all intents and purposes, they are the same program. They're basically the same program. Oh, I see what you're saying, Claude. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, obviously they've got to pick a tool to teach, you know. So having something that's standardized is just good sense. Maria, good answer for Arthur. I would say this, Arthur. The OpenToonz is at version 1.2. I'm sorry, 1.5. Tahoma2D is at version 1.2, but basically those two are parity, meaning their feature set is pretty much identical. Tahoma2D is simply a fork of OpenToonz. It's essentially a slightly different version that someone created. And for your purposes, I can say pretty safely that it probably doesn't matter which one you choose. I use Tahoma2D, as I've said here many times, because it allows me to cut and paste from the Windows clipboard directly into Tahoma, which means I can do a few things that are useful. One thing I can do is I can come over here to my video edit, excuse me, and I can take a storyboard image like this, or this, and I can cut it to the clipboard, jump over to Tahoma2D, and just go Control V and paste it in, and then kind of build up from there. And so I often will create art in Krita, or sometimes other programs like MyPaint or GIMP or whatever, but normally it's Krita, where I can do a little more sophisticated painting with lots of layers and blending modes and selections and masks and all those kinds of things, and then just cut and paste that art directly into Tahoma and begin to work with it in an animation scene. So actually, I'll show you something. Let me look at Maria's answer so I'm not being like stupidly redundant here. The two programs are actually really close. I started in OT, tried out Tahoma and have stayed there, but that's only because I'm a creature of habit. There's no real loss between the two that I can tell. Yeah, exactly. So actually, looking at the edit here, this shot right here, which isn't probably the best shot in the show, but for what it's worth, that's shot number 570. And actually, file, open recent scene file. Yeah, 570, it's the last one I was working on. Actually, everything in this scene was, all the art was actually done in Krita. And then I literally cut and pasted the individual frames from Krita. The whole process of porting an entire scene, which had been completely animated in Krita, bringing it into Tahoma so that I could use some of the other animation tools and the post-production schematic and things like that. The whole process took about 5 minutes to just copy everything from Krita into Tahoma. So they work together pretty seamlessly. So anyway, that's why I use Tahoma and not OpenToonz. The truth of the matter is, if you put a gun to my head and said, dude, which one of the two is the buggier of the two and maybe kind of bites you in the fanny once in a while, it's probably going to be Tahoma, actually. Yet, here I am, favoring Tahoma. So, there we go. Life is, or I should say truth, is stranger than fiction. So now what we're doing, hold on, I'm going to redo that line. Okay, the ink and paint in Tahoma is pretty nice. You don't have to use the fancy schmancy MyPaint brushes, but you could. There's a bunch of them. But actually, for standard ink and paint work, like the stuff that really is sort of the oh, what's the term I'm looking for? your routine brick and mortar, normal case animation work that you're trying to crank out. Basically, the brush system built into Tahoma works quite well for that. Okay, that looks stupid. Hitting the E key so I can erase this. We're going to do that line over again, and we're going to do it in the opposite direction. Okay, that's even worse. Let's try that one more time. Okay, this is where we want to go Control spacebar and rotate the canvas. That's way, way better. And then I set up the hotkey, I believe it's Shift-Alt-R, to reset the rotation. And the reason I did that is that, actually, I'm not even going to explain it. Suffice to say that I set up a custom hotkey for resetting screen rotation. We'll leave it at that for now, just because I don't feel like getting into a big explanation. Okay. Fun fact, Rebecca Sugar, who created Steven Universe and learned to SVA for animation, has her show animated and inked on paper, then scanned, colored, and constructed in OpenToonz counterpart, Toons. Yeah. Well, thank you, Claude. That just goes to prove that, yeah, good quality work can be done with these tools. Okay, what am I thinking here? This is, I must be blabbing too much. Bear with me for a second here, folks. I need to stop blabbing. And this wrist strap needs to be larger. Now, admittedly, as I often mention here, this is a frame that's going to be literally on the screen for one frame. Okay? So, as I, again, like to say, we could really get away with murder in terms of, and on a lot of levels. You know, anatomy, you know, you can really get things pretty distended in a drawing, and you say, wow, Dave, that's not, you're not being very careful. Well, look at a pencil test by Glenn Keane sometime, who animated The Little Mermaid and Tarzan and all the rest. Very, very rough. The reality is, when something's only going to be on the screen for a couple frames, you can be pretty sloppy. Now, you want to be careful. Like this shot is a little more careful. Well, it needs to be. This is going to be on the screen for 1, 2, 3 frames. All the rest here, we can squash and stretch if we want to, whatever we want to do, it doesn't matter. It's all just going to go by really quick, and it's going to feel good. It's going to feel good. I can promise you that. Cartoon Network has most of its shows animated and inked on paper and uses Harmony and Toons in their respective shows. Okay. Well, I said the other day I was pretty sure that there was a lot of network programming that had been created with Toons. I'm sorry, not Toons. I meant Toon Boom, which of course is what they're calling Harmony nowadays. You got to change the name of your software every so often just to keep people confused. So, you know, good example of what I was talking about right here. You know, this wrist wrap is okay. His forearm's actually a little bit thick. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. In fact, these fingers, if I want to be as like, I mean, I actually can draw fingers okay. I can draw anatomy pretty well, actually. In fact, I did a painting yesterday that was like a Frazetta knockoff just for fun. But again, it's going to be on the screen one frame. It's going by fast, baby. All right, let's just keep rocking. I'm going to keep rocking here. I'm going to get these wrist wraps on or done first, just because they do kind of serve as a nice guide to sort of tie it all together. So let's be a little more careful with the anatomy on this frame, I think. Bum bum. Moving fast, moving slow. Which way you gonna do it? Nobody know. Nobody know. I think what you meant to say, sir, is no make fun of myself. Like a lot, right? And plus I like making funny voices. So I think I'm allowed. So Maria's out there going, you know, Dave, you seem a little wired up tonight. Like if you're bipolar, maybe you're like on a manic trip right now. That's what she's thinking. No, actually what it is we spent all day today. Okay, so right now I've been talking a little bit, of course, about stock trading and the markets. And the markets are going through one of the worst pullbacks since last October anyway. I mean, it's a real serious pullback going on right now. So it's difficult for anyone at any skill level to continue making profits in the current climate. And so we really have had to be focused on computer screens, which of course I am here too as well, but managing equities throughout the course of the day. And frankly, I'm just like ready to just cut loose a little bit here. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna lie. So I'm just happy. Oh, and plus, you know what? I'm a guy who, at my advanced age, am prone to introspection. You know, I think about my life that's gone by. You know, obviously, well, hopefully there's still a fair amount left, but I was thinking, think about, things like why we do the things we do. I think about what makes a person. That's why sometimes there's some videos on here called life lessons for creative people. Those are things that I've learned oftentimes the hard way. And it's really kind of funny that I was kind of up late last night. Didn't go to bed as early as normal, and I was just thinking about like, what is it you've done in your life? I mean, I've done a lot of interesting things. I think. I mean, they're interesting to me. I've done all kinds of computer coding. I've done all kinds of sales and negotiation. I've run a business for 30 years. I've written and directed 8 feature films. I've written and produced all kinds of musical jingles, like radio jingles. Done a lot of interesting things, right? And I was asking myself, why is it that there's some things that I've done that I don't like just viscerally just love doing it, right? Animation is actually kind of in the middle. Animation is actually kind of a means to an end. It's not for me as much of an end in itself. But the weird thing was, the common thread when I thought about all the things I've ever done that just viscerally were I love doing them, they always involved comedy. They were either writing a script. When I watch my own feature films, my own movies, when I watch them, and I remember when they were in the theaters and stuff, and I would be there in the audience, and everybody knew I was the, like the writer director, but the whole experience wasn't actually that gratifying. It was ego gratifying, but it wasn't actually just truly pure fun. The only thing about that whole thing that was really fun was the places in the movies that were funny, when the audience would laugh. That's what I really, really liked the most. Comedy. Writing it. When I've done radio jingles where I take myself seriously, I can do them, but at the end of the day, you get the gig, you got the customer, and it's like, oh, now I got to go write the thing and produce it, It sounds stupid, but it's true. But when I've written jingles that were just silly, had a sense of humor to them, then it was fun. There's one here on my YouTube channel. You can look it up. It's called the Bear's Den Restaurant. Bear's Den Restaurant. And I did it as a knockoff of that song from the 1950s. To Big Bad John. It was kind of a knockoff of Big Bad John, and it's for a restaurant up in Alaska called the Bear's Den Restaurant, Soldotna, Alaska. And it was funny because it would be like, you know, if you want to have fun, come out to the Bear's Den, and then there'd be this sound, and I thought it'd be funny if, you know, instead of actually getting the sound of a bear, you just go. So it's like obviously a person making the sound of a bear, and they loved it. They thought it was fun, and you know, it was fun. It was funny. So I don't know why I'm telling this story. I guess because this is my YouTube channel, and I'm just talking about things that are interesting to me, and I definitely it was really dramatic. Like the common thread of everything I've ever done in my creative life, where I've truly just had fun. It's always been funny, and for me that was a powerful thing to realize, because actually in my normal dealings with people, I'm not that loose with my sense of humor. Like, you know, like I almost feel vulnerable to just crack up and laugh in front of people, you know, and just really be myself, you know. So this is why sometimes I talk about, you know, ego and how toxic ego really is. I've just, man, in my life I have so much time in my life that, in my view, at this point, was not used as well as it could have been, because I was too fixated on the ego gratification, too concerned about what other people think about me or whatever, instead of just being true to what I liked. So that's what I was thinking about with these jingles or these, you know, movies or whatever. Is a good example here on this YouTube channel would be Futurama. Because, you know, here I've got a complete episode of Futurama that I wrote and did most of the voices for. You know, good news, everyone. You know, like Hermes and anyway, you know, and so it was kind of interesting to ponder this. Writing the script was incredible fun. I loved writing that script. I think it's really a pretty funny episode. You know, I think I did a good job on it. And doing the voices was fun, recording the voices. But yet, I haven't actually been that motivated to just, like, animate the thing, you know? Why is that? I've thought to myself. And the reason is because the animation part of it is really just work. You know, it's just a job you have to do. I'm going to have to make a couple amendments here to his shirt. Okay, so go back here. So I don't know if this is like completely boring to everybody. I'm sure it probably is, but I ponder these things from time to time. Particularly in the realm of, you know, why we do what we do, why we feel what we feel. What makes us actually happy as opposed to see, ego is a proxy for happiness. In other words, if you're afraid to be yourself, okay, and Maria, you probably have an opinion about this, because I think being so much in theater, you've learned to be really comfortable with yourself in front of an audience or whatever. Well, I will tell you quite frankly that in my filmmaking career, because so much of it was measured, partly because there were Christian themes that I was trying to communicate in a way that were appropriate to the audience that these movies were going to be for, basically, because they really were for the faith-based audience. But yet I always kind of wanted to be a little bit measured in my delivery, because my personal, you know, faith beliefs are a little unconventional, you know. And so I was always measured, because I can't really, or I shouldn't say I can't. I took the position that I can't. That was my choice. Necessarily say exactly the things I want to say in the way I'd prefer to say them. Things like that. You know, where you're just not being liberated. Just say, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to be me and let the chips fall where they may, you know. That's what I would generally recommend. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't say I don't know. I do know, but what I really mean, this is actually what I just said is an example of what I'm talking about. When I say to you guys, yeah, I don't know if anybody's interested. I don't know if anybody cares. The truth is, in my heart and in my mind, I don't actually feel that way. The truth is, this is actually very, very important to me. These types of ideas and things that I think about. So why would I say, yeah, I mean, I'm probably boring you guys to death. Why would I say that? Well, I say that because I'm allowing myself once again to be concerned about what you guys think. You know, it's kind of stupid. It's kind of stupid. The reality is probably you don't care at all, number one. And number two, maybe it is interesting. Maybe it is helpful. And if it isn't, you know, that's really not my problem, right? It just means that if my job here is to entertain, then I've failed. But that's okay. It's okay to fail, you know? Is any of this resonating for anyone in any way? Because I'm really curious about that. So I'm gonna finish explaining this because I want to finish my thought. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that because my filmmaking work was measured, was careful in most respects, there were a lot of things that were fun about it and cool as far as the type of storytelling and yada yada. But what's kind of sad is that the best way I can describe it is that the ego gratification of people recognizing your ability to do something that's kind of unusual or, you know, that people just think's cool, like directing a movie. The ego gratification of that became a proxy for happiness. Ego gratification is a piss-poor substitute for happiness. And it's what you do to make life tolerable when you're not actually being yourself. In other words, if you just be yourself and let the chips fall where they may, you can't please everybody. At least you're going to be happy, right? But if you don't have the courage to do that, then how do you make life tolerable? Well, ego gratification, being recognized for doing cool stuff or whatever, is kind of it's a crappy substitute, but indeed it's a substitute. And I say again, it's a crappy one because it doesn't last, and it's, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're getting, it's like the energy comes from the idea that you know people are impressed with you. Like, how stupid is that? Right? It's like so stupid. But I've done that. You know, I've been that guy. It's so sad. It's pathetic, actually. Kind of a heavy topic, isn't it? I don't want to be that guy anymore. I truly don't. I want to just do what I'm doing because it's fun to do. And by the way, that's why I did a pencil test on this scene. This is where I'll bring it home and actually make it relevant to what we're doing here today. I did this pencil test, and by the way, this shot was done the same way. This shot I did by just doing an 8 frames per second pencil test. And I was firmly anchored on the thing that truly matters the most, which is the character, how the character is emoting, how they're feeling. Does it entertain, right? And I entertained myself in the pencil test. And you know what? Everything else took care of itself. I can paint a background. You know, I can paint the background. I can do the ink and paint like I'm doing here tonight. But this is the thing that I care about. This is the part in animation that matters to me, because it's the part where I'm actually entertaining myself, seeing the guy move and do something, right? That combined with, for me, writing the script, because, you know, the script has some comedy and you know, there's a lot of fun stuff in the script, in the story. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to write a story and then like bring it to life. Bring these characters to life. I really think it's, you know, thinking about Claude and guys like, you know, you guys that are dipping your toes or into the area of animation or, you know, whatever. You guys need to know that there's never been, ever, a better time for you to be able to do whatever you want to do. Now, think of it this way. 30 years ago, animation could be argued to probably be more lucrative because it was not accessible. We didn't have digital tools, and so you had to go through a very, very laborious and expensive process just to be able to do it, right? So on the one hand, if you could do it, if you could find a way to do it, then maybe the rewards might be a little harder to come by nowadays, I would suspect. Right? Because, you know, theoretically, you know, everybody can do it because the tools are there. But I've got faith in this, and this is why I'm doing this cartoon. I really have faith in this idea. If Claude, I say to you as a budding young animator, if you do good work, you'll find your audience or your opportunity. If it's good, if it's truly entertaining, you'll find your audience. That made $1 million. I'm not joking. It was the right movie for the right audience at the right time in the right market, and it just sold like hotcakes. You know? And it's important to remember, you can't predict that. You cannot make that happen. Now you can increase your odds by taking the time to investigate the marketplace and make a reasonably good guess about how you target what you're creating for the audience, you know, for an existing audience that might be inclined to enjoy whatever it is you're creating. Hope that makes sense. You've never been comfortable in front of an audience. In fact, that's one of the reasons I turned to writing. Huh. I'm wondering about that, Maria. Surely when you... I mean, there must be gradations of that, because once you know a script and you've got a good sense of the project you're working on, and you know the parts that are, you know, make the audience laugh or whatever. Once you know what you're doing, don't you? Are you just saying that when it's a new thing, there's like butterflies before the show kind of thing? Because I certainly, when I played, knew I could do the performance, but man, it was definitely a little scary getting out there and, you know, putting it on the line, baby. But it's also true that the final night was the worst, partly because my peeps were going to be there, and it was the only night of 5 nights where I actually started to freeze up and forget my line, and I had to, in the space of, I think, 5 to 8 seconds, I completely replayed my opening monologue in my mind really, really fast to refine my place. And I got away with it, and I asked my daughter afterwards, you know, could you tell that I felt like I had this moment where I froze up. It was like, felt like an hour, you know. She said, no, you didn't even notice. I'm like, oh my gosh, I fooled you all because I had a bad freeze up. But, you know, that's what you try to do. Okay, let's see how this is playing out. Yeah, look at that. That's cool. I'm actually going to go Control-Shift-R and render it into the show. And then just, actually, I'm not going to jump back to my editor. I'm going to turn on the preview here so I can see how this is flowing. We got a little glitch in the edit there. Oh, I didn't know that, Maria. I didn't know you were. I thought you were doing a lot of like on stage type stuff. It's all good, you know. And talking about this comedy stuff, I have to say, when I really think about dialing into what I really love, it absolutely is the writing. The people I respect. In fact, you know what? I was thinking about this when I was thinking about this last night. I was like up till 10:30 just pondering this. I thought, you know, sometimes there's funny people who go serious. I thought of Jim Carrey. Sometimes there's funny people who go dark. I think of Robin Williams. And I thought to myself, you know, the people that are all about comedy who don't, that seem to have their moral compass and they seem to be happy, are the writers. It's the people that write the stuff. So I think there's a difference between performers and writers in terms of their life experience. I think there is. Probably because when you're a writer, and this is why I think it's so cool that you can do that, Maria, because I think it's one of the coolest things you can do, is to write. So I'm so proud of Valerie. She's writing this. It's basically a zombie apocalypse type novel, and she's about 120 pages into it, and it sounds great, you know. Just because she wanted to, you know, she just wanted to. Super cool thing. Okay, so what are we going to do here? I think there was a point to what I was saying, but I can't remember what the point was. Well, I've been known to do that. Oh yeah, I was talking about writing. You know, when you're a writer, and see, I've written a lot. I mean, I've written, you know, advertising. I've crafted sales scripts and business plans, and that's really a writing function. Obviously, I journal a lot. Screenplays. By far, the stuff I love the most is writing comedy. I really, really enjoy writing comedy. And I don't think of myself as a funny guy, although when I start doing funny voices and really cut loose, people over the years, it happens rarely. Again, because of this ego thing. It happens rarely where I'm like at a party or something and I really, really cut loose. But when I do, I actually find that you know, I'll get the whole place laughing because it's like Robin Williams where you're making a lot of voices and you're shifting gears really fast and you know, it's just fun. All right, let's go. What are we going to do here? Let's do a raster. Actually, you know what? Let me see here. For Arthur and Claude's benefit, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate the jump from Krita to Tahoma. I'm going to go ahead and do this. The background painting here is pretty stupidly simple. All you got to do is paint the ground. Okay. And actually strike what I just said. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to shot number 573 and reuse this. It's dumb to... Why would I repaint this? So forget what I just said. I'm not going to do that. I need to open up 573 and see what type of file it is. So, bear with me, friends, while I pull up number 573. Wait a second. Is 573 not a Tahoma? Pretty sure it is. All right, let's go over here. And let's just type in 573.tnz. 573.tnz, and that's a rhyme. Okay, here it is. So this is what we want, and it looks like it is a raster level. So now this is something you guys are going to learn now about OpenToonz and Tahoma. Okay? Because this is a raster level, it's just a plain old painting. If I go into, I'm going to open up my image viewer, okay? And I'm going to go to the extras folder within my project. Within the extras folder, I should find that painting. It's probably towards the end here, I would expect. But I'm just looking for a splotch of green. Aha! Is this it? That's it. There it is. Okay, so now we can take this drawing right here, such as it is. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, my mistake. I gotta hit escape. I need to reload the project I was just working on. So it's 576. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drag it right to there. Okay, so boop. We'll grab this, drag it onto Tahoma, pop it in right there, stretch it down there, and okay, so now we just need to deal with the, well, two things. One, okay, so let me kind of be careful here to explain what's going on. All right, if I paint into this, okay, if I take this painting, and right now it's not lined up with the canvas from the tent correctly. All right, if I paint over this and save all, then that very image is going to be resaved, and what's going to happen is when I load up shot number 573, or whatever it was, yeah, 573, and need to make what I'm going to be modifying here, because I see this shadow line, I know that everything in the other shot happened underneath the tent canvas. Actually, strike what I just said. That's precisely why I need to do it the way it's a dyslexia moment. We're going to call that a dyslexia moment, guys. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here and just hit D. Okay? And now I'm going to delete this. This is just a safety procedure. So now I've got the same painting, but it's made a copy of it. And now when I save this, save all, I'm going to save my scene. Automatically, in the background, let me close this. Okay. Automatically, if I hit refresh, now there's two versions of it. See? Cool, huh? So Tahoma actually does a pretty good job of managing this stuff for you in the background. So what I'm going to do is hit the B key, grab my oil paint brush, sample. I'm going to reduce this to 0 so it's just like the normal size. Okay, and now we're going to make a few tweaks to it. So B key, R key to sample the green, B key to start painting, and then all I'm going to do is just reposition the shadow. Alright, so R key to sample that shadow color, and then we're just using the oil paint brush to kind of shoop, 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 shoop. No big deal. Alright, so now one other aspect of this, in this particular case, I think what I'm going to do is actually hit the A key and just scale it. Scale it up a bit. Yeah, like that. That's fine. That's fine. That will work just fine. Alright, hey Darren, man, good to see you, buddy. Just passing through, huh? Well, I'm having a good session tonight. At least I'm entertaining myself. I don't know how everybody else is doing, but hopefully not too bad. So now let's ask ourselves this question. We've got a pencil test here that we really don't need anymore. So unless this has value to posterity, in other words, we're all going to be crying like babies because it got deleted, I'm thinking what we're going to do is we're going to go E key. Look at, whoa. Yes, I'm going to just go like this, and I'm literally going to go through and delete all the drawings in my pencil test. You know why? So I can actually use this image sequence because the keyframes are already in the right place. Now I'm going to use it for shadows. Okay. Now I've been doing shadows recently with vector levels, but in this case we'll use the standard smart raster level. I was going to say Toonz raster level, but that's the OpenToonz nomenclature. So what I want to do here is change this to a standard brush, and then what I want to look at is, okay, that does, I wasn't sure that this was a TLV level. I should have looked at this and seen that it was green. So if you guys are out there going, Dave, we don't even know what you're talking, dude, what are you even talking about? I get it. I'm kind of rambling here a bit. But anyway, the salient point is that I'm going to make this shape like this. Okay? And then probably what I should do is make this level pretty transparent, like that, so I can see what I'm doing. And then I'll go like this, go like that, and then hit the fill tool and just fill it in. And so that's how I'm going to create my cast shadow. Alright, easy peasy. Just gonna, it can be very loose, doesn't have to be super perfect. You will see that when this is all done, it's gonna look pretty good. Here I'm just gonna Again, simple, just a fillable shape. B key, so I can go like that, fill that, and for this frame I don't need it. So there we go. So now we got our cast shadow in there. Now what we can do, we want to check a couple things. Let's go to our scene settings and make sure this is turned on. Enable column filter and transparency for rendering. Step 2, let's give the shadow a little bit of a blur, not much. So in column 2, I am going to insert a blur in the node-based compositor, which of course OpenToonz and Tahoma refer to as the schematic. Alright, so this is going to have a blur of maybe, gosh, I think 10 pixels. It's not going to take much. Alright, I'm going to keep this handy because I'm thinking I'm going to need it here in a minute. So if I look at this in preview mode, you can see that the shadow is a little bit blurred. But we want it also to be transparent. Normally I go for about, well, with internal shadows, about 11 or 12. For a cast shadow, probably about 16. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, so now we've got our cast shadow. We still have to deal with our shadows on our character, okay? But I think I'm going to have a way to do that that's going to be real economical. Like this. Okay, this is where you guys get your money's worth. Column 3. I got to think about this for a second. What I was about to say I was going to do actually isn't going to work. Okay. I'm going to do a trick. Watch this. I'm going to go B. Let me think about this for half a second. I don't want to block off my... Okay, let me go through the process and show you what's going to go wrong. Okay, and I'm not really losing any time here because these are all steps I'd be having to take anyway. So I'm going to take Mel and I'm going to add the light body highlight effect. Okay. Column 4, body highlight effect. Okay, and that worked. As you can see, you got this kind of highlight here. And actually, I didn't think this was going to work, but it kind of did. So let's go with it. Now, I'm going to add a second instance. I've been finding myself doing this quite a lot. Do a second body highlight, but this one is going to be inverted and it's going to be black. And the reason for that is because now it becomes a shadow area. See that? All right, so now what we can do is just dial that in. And I'm telling you, I mean, you talk about an economical way to like dial in your color and stuff. Pretty impressive, actually. Okay. This may not be needed. Yeah, in this case, we don't need the actual edge highlight. Okay, so what I was going to say was going to go wrong is in fact going wrong, but it's not a problem. Here's what it is. Normally with the body highlight, what Tahoma's going to do is look at the outline of your character or whatever it is based on its alpha channel. And then that's going to tell it how to make this offset that creates the effect of a cast light and or shadow. In this case, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because this whole area with the canvas is actually filled with color. Okay, so now I have a suspicion. Let me get this out of here for a minute. If I were to take color 0, which is transparent, and fill the tent with that, so the tent's still there, the lines are still there, but the color's gone. Now I suspect, yes, see now you can see the color on Mel. Okay, so this is what I was going to do before I changed my mind and decided to walk through the process. What I was going to do is erase the color on the tent and actually put it on a separate level. Not the worst idea I've ever had. The question is, does that extra highlight matter? I think it does. So for me, I like that. I think I want to have that in there. Okay. And so I'm going to go like that. And here it doesn't matter because, well, for obvious reasons. So with that, now what we'll do, this is a little bit of a clunkier than normal process, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create another smart raster level, and I'm going to go ahead and create these keyframes. Well, I guess I technically didn't need the last one. Can I delete it? Yeah. Okay. File. Save all. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is take this one color, and it's actually going to be this color. Boom. Oh, wait. Hold on. It needs to be this color. Okay. And now what I need to do is steal the outlines here on the tent and copy them into my other level. So hoping this makes sense. So I'm going to actually grab these lines, and I'm hitting shift. I think I can do this. Grab these lines, control C. If I come over here, and by the way, I kind of reserve the right to have this not work that well. I mean, I'm thinking it's going to work, but we'll give it a try. Okay, so now with that, I can go here. I'm going to just erase this little. Okay, so I'm erasing this blue on the edge, but actually there's another way to do it. You could do it the way I did it before, which is hit the F key for the fill tool and grab color 0 and actually just fill it with transparency. So effectively does the same thing. Okay, so now this, yep, there's my outline color. So now what I'm going to do is hit the B key and just connect those dots. Okay, so yeah, this is definitely some extra steps required. I'm going to grab this line, Control C, Control V, and I'm going to grab this line with the S key. I don't actually need any of the wrinkles. I just need a line across so I can fill it with color. So I hope this is making sense. Okay, so S key, Control V. And now if you solo that, you see this is what we have. And now we got to do this one. This is where actually vectors would be a little easier, because we could actually just grab the object and cut and paste it. So spank me for doing it the hard way. There's that. Same situation here. S key. So this is a really unusual process I'm going through. Normally I wouldn't have to do this, but Control C, Control V. I think the body highlight really does make a difference. Oh yeah, it's a great effect. Great effect. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this off, and now I'm going to go through and clean up this level. Okay, how am I going to clean it up? Well, step 1 is to grab color 0, and then let's just step through these frames and erase these erroneous colors that are gumming up the works. Now, if those lines are still in there, it shouldn't matter because this is on top of it, right? So, therefore, all that actually matters at this juncture is, I'm going to go ahead and grab the G key to sample that color. Okay, so it's color 11, not color 1. That's fine. So now we'll go fill. Oh, come on, we're going to leak. Okay, my bad. My bad. This is a goofy mistake because I forgot my actual art is full HD. So I've got to extend those lines across. But you guys knew that. You knew that was coming. Didn't ya? Didn't ya? Fill tool. Same situation here. Again, the erroneous lines truly do not matter. Oh, come on. Yeah, well, yeah, that's a little sloppy there, Dave. Little sloppy. But there's where the leak is, right there. Fill tool. Yep, there we go. And almost done here. Almost done with all the grunt work. Yeah, if I had this to do over again, I'm sure I would have thought it through and certainly put the tent in a different level to begin with. Okay, let's see what this is. Ow. Ow, well that's a little bit annoying, isn't it? Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to actually hit the V key. V key. Set this to like probably 7 pixels. I'm just going to hand paint this. Just save myself the hassle. Oh wait, it actually doesn't matter. I forgot this is off screen. Dave, they say, how did you ever get to be such a goof? So, there you go. That looks pretty good. Now, the only thing, you know, the caveat would be, the caveat would be that we really don't have any tonality on the tent. We really don't have any shadow areas. Think about it this way. Well, we can't put it in the same level. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a vector. Let's do a vector level. Because then we can just do it with transparency, and this will be over top of everything. Okay? So I'm going to save my work because Tahoma has a disturbing tendency to crash when you do any like auto creation with vectors. So I'm going to hit the B key. And as you can see, we've got auto close, auto group, and auto fill turned on. And that means that we can do stuff like this. And it's automatically going to draw the shapes for us. Okay? And because I'm putting this on a separate vector level, I can also go ahead and give him a shadow here. Maybe go ahead and punch up this shadow down here. I obviously, because I already did the cast shadows, I don't need to worry about that. But let's look at it rendered. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll just take this right here and smack it down, something like that. That looks pretty good. Not sure I'm sold on the density of the shadows. I'm actually going to split the difference there. Let me look at this actual side and see what we've got. Yes, that'll work. That'll work. Okay, so there's that. And now we just need to draw some shadows. Now one thing that's nice with vector levels is you can see the interactive drawing even when you're in full preview mode. You know, you still get to, you can see the whole shape being drawn, so it's very interactive even though you're in preview mode. And then it just blinks for a minute while it renders it, actually. Okay. So, anything going on out there? Anything going on out there, guys? Okay, right there, I was being a little remiss because what I just did has crashed Tahoma. It's the one thing I've seen recently that actually crashes Tahoma pretty reliably, which is you've got a vector level, and then you just go to a frame and start drawing and have it auto-create. It didn't crash this time, but trust me, it's done it plenty of times. There's one thing I'm missing here, though, by the way. I want to add this little transition zone. Yeah. Gee, Dave, you think? Yeah. Gee, I do think. Okay, so let's go to this one. I'm going to hit the N key. Probably zip out just a little bit. Zip out, I say. Zip out. So, all cool, man. All cool. Thank you, Ino-san. I'm kind of moving faster with a lot of like I don't actually know what you're referring to when you say all cool, man, but I'm sure that it's probably because I did something stupid and or said something stupid and Everybody's like, oh, no, man, it's cool. I appreciate that. Just trying to do what I do. Just trying to do what I do. And also notice, one thing you can also do is if these cross like that, it sort of does the intelligent thing. Now, right now we're seeing an issue. Okay, I see what, okay, I just learned something. Okay, if you're in preview mode and you hit undo, it appears to not work. If you go out of preview mode, you'll see that those shadows I drew are gone. Well, what's going on here, I suspect, is that Tahoma's render buffer, you would have to jump between frames to wake it up and make it realize, hey, you're supposed to, yeah, see, recalculate the shadows. So if you're in preview mode or rendered mode, whatever you want to call it, and your changes appear not to have occurred, and this may be something unique to vector levels, then just either jump out or back in, or probably more likely jump between frames, so it has to sort of recalculate what the oh boy, am I asking for it. I need to save my work. Okay, is Tahoma gonna crash right now? It didn't. Yeah, so for some reason this auto creating frames on a vector level is not crashing Tahoma today. Trust me, guys, I'm not lying when I tell you that that has been an absolute crash trigger lately. OpenToonz tends to crash just before you realize you have to save before. Oh man, ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth? No, I was pretty ticked off at Tahoma yesterday. I got a little bit saucy when it crashed and cost me my work at a most inopportune time. All right, let's go back here and see what we've got. So we got that. Okay, so that shot is clearly color corrected, and now we're back to Fala. So okay, cool. So now what I want to do is just compare this to this. And I'm actually going to, this won't make sense because you can't see it. I'm gonna go Control C, and on this clip I'm gonna go paste event attributes, which will cause the same, the same color corrector here to be pasted over here. So now when we look at this, we go from this to that. So this seems a little aggressive, so you guys can't see this at the moment, but what I'm doing is I'm actually piping up the gamma a little bit. Kind of feel like that was a little strong. Now clearly you've got a difference in color on the tent. Frankly, I think the problem is really this shot. This shot's actually overdone. So we should probably correct that. What are you talking about, Dave? I'm talking about this tent color. It's a little bit, yeah, and maybe not quite as saturated either. So now what I'm going to do is go out of rendered mode, go over here. Let me just make sure. Yes, I thought it was color 11. I just want to make sure. Alright, so now color 11 is going to actually be this color. And now if I re-render, I'm good to go. And I do believe, friends, so there is a slight difference in color here between these two shots. And also, let me see. And that's definitely quite a bit darker. Could you argue that? Yeah, that doesn't quite work, does it? Let me look back at here. Okay, always. Yesterday my electricity blanked out briefly in the house. Boy, ours was threatening to. Actually, this morning we had a thunderstorm. And I'm so grateful I saved them when I did. Still lost my coloring. Yeah, I lost, you know, to be honest, it didn't take that long to recover. I've gotten pretty good at recovering from crashes. And usually it can be said that when you go and do it the second time, it usually turns out better than the first time, you know? So there is that. But what is bugging me here is, why is this... Oh, I know why. It's because of the body highlight effect. Okay, so what that means, for those of you who are keeping score, is I need to actually do this. Hit the S key. We're going to fix this in a hurry. Grab those, all those lines, come over here, hit the B key, create a new frame, and then hit the S key, paste it in, grab color 11, and fill it. Oh, come on. It's the same old, same old. I have to extend it out to the edges. So, sorry about that. Hitting the B key. Let's go back here. This is a definite... Actually, that doesn't really make sense. What is going on here? Why is that not filling? Okay. We have it here. Ah, that's why. I forgot. Stupid attack. I'm in the wrong level there, Jack. I'm in the wrong level. This is mission control. You're on the wrong level. And it still doesn't fill. Come on. Come on. As my friend, the dear departed Donio used to say. Come on. Come on. There, we got it. Finally. Holy smokes, that was a pain in the rumperilius. Okay. Now, I've made so many little steps in a row that I can't remember what's what. So what I'm going to do is just render the darn thing and hope for the best. Boom. And so now I'm going to go back here and see what happened. Okay, the color's fixed, but now for some reason the shadow is boogered up. So that's a little weird. But I've seen Tahoma do that before. So this level... Well, we set the opacity. Now it looks right. There we go. There we go. So here's our shot. We're done. But goes back to Fala, and now Mel's out there outside the tent, ready to investigate the contents of his bag, which of course he's going to be crushed to discover that the bag is empty. Okay, wrong levels is a sign of genius. And if you know the Emperor's New Groove, then wrong level can always be used with cheer. You know, I don't remember how the term wrong level was used in that movie, but I have Disney Plus, so I'll check it out. Wrong levels is a sign of genius. You know what? We're going to go with that. We're just going to go with it. Because the alternative is much worse. Alright, so now when Mel gets outside the tent, this is a little bit, you know, it's going to be a little bit strange for the audience. Let me see here. Let me look at what we have in terms of... That's a shot outside the tent. Honestly, we should use that one and flip it. This one. We should use this one and flip it, I think. So here we've got... Well, we've got this one too. Actually, this one's perfect. That's 540. Let's pull up 540. Guys, we're pulling up 540. Let's save all and pull up shot number 540. 540. TNZ. Come on, 540. Come on, don't let me down. Don't let me down. You know I love you. You know I do. Alright, that looks pretty good. However, if we reference our storyboard, what we will discover is... Okay, there's Mel. There's where Mel is sitting. Thanks, looks great, Inyo-san says. That's very nice, thank you. I only hope that it entertains people and that it actually is, you know, fun for people to watch when it's all said and done. But the good news is we've only got 4 minutes to go. 4 minutes to go for episode 2 to be done being animated. But as I've mentioned several times, I'm sure I'll be going in and you know, fixing up scenes, fixing up shots of old. Okay, so let's take a look at this shot. I'm going to get out of rendered mode here, and let's consider, you know what we should do? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to make a bold move here. I am making a bold move. I am determined to just have fun with this. And so, how am I going to have fun? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is delete that. The cast shadow could probably stick around. So what we need to do, we don't need this frame. What we need to do is insert a level here, hit the B key, and now we've automatically created a new smart raster level. Now what we're going to do is let's grab this drawing, Control C, hit the S key, and paste it in here. Now we've got this drawing in this level and the palette, and now we can delete this level, and by doing that we're going to we've essentially separated this drawing from the TLV level that it originally came from. So that means when we save this file under a different name, we're not going to run the risk of damaging the image sequence that was referenced on unused levels. Okay, and now we're going to save this as 578. File. Come on, baby. 578. There it is. Okay. Wow, this is going to be fun. All right. Now what we're going to do is, I think, I'm going to just turn the shadow. Actually, I'm going to delete the shadow level. Just going to take it out. Let's start from scratch on the shadows. Okay. This is a standard raster level. What I want to do I think what I'm going to do is go Alt D. What do we do here? Where is Darren when I need him? Alt D. Okay, we'll do it that way. Okay, so I'm going to take this level and just sketch in this. I'm going to sketch over this. I'm actually going to just scribble this in here. And the reason I'm going to do that is so I'm setting myself up so I can do a pencil test. Because this is actually going to be a pretty fun shot. Let me think about this for half a second. You know what? I don't need this. I don't need this shot. I made a mistake. Okay. The deal is we need this level and we need this palette, but we don't need this pose. Actually, we do not need this pose. So this Mel is sitting here getting ready to look in this bag, and of course to his chagrin discover that what he's expecting to find in the bag is not there. Okay, so let's just get a sketch of Mel happening here. Okay, that's his knee in the foreground. Okay, so there's his knee. I told you guys I could do anatomy. Okay. Let's keep it simple. Okay, and I'm going to just kind of go like this. Have his... I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Okay, there's the bag. And thinking I'm going to do it that way. Okay. That'll work. That'll work. Okay, anything going on? Nothing going on in the comments, so no problem. We'll just keep forging ahead. So now he's pretty stoked to see what's in the bag. Alright, so now the salient point of all this lengthy exercise was that, and this is his sandal, by the way, of course, was that we got to get him to this pose. This is why I said it's going to be fun. Okay? How do we do that? Well, let's turn this back on, but turn it really, really, really transparent. Okay, that's just really pretty good composition, actually. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. What would he be doing? I'm just going to keep this really, really loose to just kind of feel what I think the acting would be here. All right, and I want to jump between, yeah, okay, cool. I want to make sure I got the scale right. Like, I don't want to, you don't want your characters changing size in mid-shot, right? Okay, so now if this was going on, he's got his elbow, he's kind of anchored here on the ground. His hands would be out like this. I'm not going to draw the details. I'm not going to try to get real clear on the anatomy yet. I'm just going to say, if his belt is there, he's kind of got this little skirty kind of thing. I don't want to have to animate the tent. So I know that sounds like a pretty chimpy restriction, but it is, however, a restriction. So that actually dictates the pose to a degree, because I've got to be able to have his feet completely out from under the canvas. Okay, and maybe to some degree we can fudge that a little bit in terms of what it looks like, because we don't actually see the other leg on this pose. All right, so this is, we're definitely getting into good old-fashioned animation. So the question is, how does he get to that pose? That's really the question we're answering here. And one thing I should check right here is I should erase the alpha out here so that I can see the background painting of the tent behind him. Because if it turns out that this drawing is actually like in the wrong, it looks good. It's actually in the right position. Looks good. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to say, you guys that have been around with me for a while know that I do this thing I call working from the known to the unknown. So I'm looking at the anatomical considerations that I definitely know where things are going to be, and I'm using that to help me figure out the stuff that I don't yet know. Okay, so this is actually his knee coming up. Like his foot. It's kind of a, looks like a John Buscema type drawing. Okay, here, this actually does look like a John Buscema type drawing. Something he would have drawn. If you don't know who John Buscema is, don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm going to take this and let's anchor it right there, and then I want to kind of go like that and get it. This is interesting. This is actually really interesting. It's an interesting bit of acting. Okay, because he's gonna, I'm gonna stand him up. I'm gonna do it in 2 poses. Yep. So I'm doing it the Glenn Keane way. I'm doing this really loose. Really, really loose. You can find it on YouTube. There's like scaling is one of the issues I'm learning to deal with. Oh, Maria, all the time. I'm so much better at it than I used to be, but I feel like most of my improvement, for whatever reason, has come recently. But it is so easy to animate something and they change volume or they change size, you know, in mid. But I think what helped me was I quit lamenting it, for one thing, and I just went through the hard work of if it wasn't right, you just have to work it and get it right. You have to erase and redraw and just get it, you know. So probably the hand is here, which means the bag's here. Okay. Boom. Let's get this. Yeah, so this is it's unusual. Like usually, gosh, I've gone through so much of an evolution since I started doing this stuff on YouTube. And I would bet that for most people, the way I'm doing this is probably what I would guess it's probably more what people want to see, actually. And I'm having fun doing it. Just a traditional pencil test. You know, the main thing that makes it different from, you know, your traditional, what we might call Disney style animation, is the fact that I'm working at 8 frames per second. Okay. Now, what's missing here? Let me think about this. I might be making some bad decisions in terms of my storytelling, mainly because I'm kind of enjoying just doing the drawing and figuring out if I can make the guy move the way I want him to move. But what I'm thinking, okay, so maybe you guys could weigh in on this. Leg facing us kind of swings in front of Mel's body, so you can plump down and swing the other leg in front too, maybe. Thank you for that, Maria. That's kind of along the lines of what I was getting ready to ask. Okay, so right now we have a little problem on this drawing. I'm feeling like this is generally getting out of scale. Kind of the very problem we just mentioned, right? And these 2 legs should be closer together. Yeah, I mean, he's a skinny guy, you know, that's better. Okay, so he stands up, and what I'm wondering is, how do I convey, without having to go to a different cut, how do I convey him going, like, you know, I just got out of there really quick. What could you do? Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. I mean, this is obviously, I'm not going to do a bunch of extra tweens on this either. You know, this is very snappy animation, very snappy movement, and it's quick because the guy's in a hurry, you know. But how could we convey? Pew, pew. Okay, and by the way, there's his belt. This is actually a lot of fun. This is takes me back to my roots, you know, because I mean, you know, back from when I was in high school, you know, what I wanted to do was, you know, I wanted to draw his arm kind of more like this. I'll show you how I would have drawn it. The way John Buscema would draw, you know, Conan, right? This is what I wanted to see, superhero stuff, right? This is not appropriate to what I'm doing here, you know. So anyway, if he settled up here, if he stood up, and then his hands fell. So let's just try that. Bloom, boom, it'd be here. Okay, so here, here. Hit the D key. And now, come on, I'm hitting the B key, you goofy thing. And now his hands, I'm gonna have his hands fall into frame. And again, I'm just gonna keep them sketchy right now. Let me see. I guess this hand should be kind of like this. He's holding the bag. Just working this out as we go. So if we're going to do that, I don't know if this is going to work. It's a pretty lame way to convey the emotion I'm trying to get here. But what I would do is put another drawing here. I'm going to hit shift, and then I'm going to move these back up a bit so they bounce into frame. And then what I want them to do, again, I don't know that this is going to work, but I'm going to try. Alright, so you hop. Okay, this obviously needs to be like way out of town here. Way out of town. And then what I want to do is I want to kind of see. Zoom, bop. Okay, that's too late. So I am going to just take this up a few frames. Zoom, boom. Okay, I like it actually. So this is zoom, bam. Okay, yeah, this is about right. So now, this is the part where it all begins to make sense. Watch this. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I don't want to do a bunch of cutting and pasting and rotating, and I don't want to get into puppet animation mode here. So I do need to erase some of this stuff, but I do want to also have this leg in here as a guide. Okay. You know, when we take a deep breath, we usually open up our arms a little. Like open up our arms a little. If you're only showing the legs, maybe they could give a little and then straighten. Yeah, I mean, let me come back to that, because that's kind of what I was trying to do just with his hands. You know, it's like his idea is that his hands just kind of go, pooh. You know, you're getting this without being able to show shoulders. You know, that whole, and without showing his face, which, I mean, it's kind of a neat challenge actually. You know, you tell somebody, okay, you have to animate this, and you have to convey this type of an emotion or whatever. How do you do it? And then this is the limit. You got this limitation. You're not allowed to show his face. Well, in anime, a funny thing about that is, in anime, I think this would probably be a pretty common type of restriction to have to face. You know, because in the anime world, you know, they're always looking for ways to tell the story as economically as possible. I'm just getting these. I made his little skirt thing a little too high. So you're saying, I'm gonna say I don't think I need to do something with the legs, actually. It's probably going to be the audio. you know, or something of that nature. I think that maybe the audio is going to help fill in the whew. Or, you know, if it was a modern person, they'd go, jeez. You know, they do something verbally to convey their relief. Okay, so now we got a little more drawing to do, because what we want to do, let's get this. Okay, so now I'm gonna actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna change my mind. I'm gonna take this back out, and all I'm gonna do is animate his hand. Okay, this will make sense shortly. Okay, so what I'm going to do is say, here's the bag. I'm not even going to animate the hand. I'm going to animate the bag. The bag winds up here. So now I have to visualize this in my mind. I have to see what he would do in order for this to actually happen. Okay, here's the bag. And now I'm seeing his arm straightening out as he lands, but the bag stays out there and then it follows. So let's draw the bag flying through the air here. Let me just check this. Okay. Okay, the bag comes down. Bag falls down here. A little lower than that. The legs splay out a bit. Okay, this is going to be extended a little longer. Boy, I'm doing way more animation than I usually do, but like I said, I'm having fun, so who cares? Alright, so... Alright. This hand, I'm going to let this hand fly out that way. There's a thumb. He's going to go boom, 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 boom. Okay, he's there. Okay, as I said, the legs were splayed out here. So boy, this is an interesting challenge. I'm going to have him kind of scrunch down a little bit more. There's his head. And I guess, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to kind of have his shoulders kind of smack out. Okay, this is definitely tricky. So this has to go boom, 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 yeah, that actually worked okay. That's a very, very strange way to do animation. I'm literally in real time trying to feel where the body parts would go. So here's shin, shin, turns, falls, comes back a bit, over here, and then the leg is splayed out. Okay. Here we got this leg is coming out like that, popping up, knee up. It's kind of hidden by the bag on this frame. I'm really doing this traditional style. Like I said, it's pretty unusual for me to do something this way, but what the heck. So I'm gonna say bottom of the foot comes up, up. There it is. I got it. I landed in the right place. Okay, so if I play this, let me see if we can see it. Bam. Look at that. It worked. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. I tell you, people have a debate sometimes about pose to pose versus straight ahead animation, and I swear I would think that I would favor pose to pose, But man, in practice, I usually do the best stuff when I just go straight ahead and just follow my instincts. So now this could fall apart. You know, let's not get too excited. But I think, you know, these are his toes right here in the bottom of his sandal, and then his leg kind of kicks out a little bit. Well, oh, that's crazy, man. Crazy how that worked. Okay, and the reason the bag is here is because I wanted to let him... The bag's here, and then his hand... So you could imagine his hand is holding the bag. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a shape to kind of indicate the hand. It's got the... around the top of the bag. That's a pretty awful drawing, but we'll keep going with it. Okay, so he's got it here. Fingers are wrapped around it, and then the idea was he's gonna let's do his deltoid. So his shoulders here. Helpful to, you know, you figure here's an elbow, right? Elbow. Okay, so now he would have to be falling back pretty ridiculously for the deltoid to get to that position that quickly. So I know this probably doesn't make a lot of sense visually, but the idea would be, okay, our arm's gonna be foreshortened here. We'll put the elbow there, so it's totally foreshortened, actually. Let's crank the elbow up this way and just swing the arms straight across. Okay, so now the arm's catching up. Okay, so boom. So boom right there. Something like that. Elbow. And then he slams down onto the ground. And then looks in the bag. So I don't know if this is going to work. We're going to give it a try. Ba-dum bum ba-dum bum. Boom. Oh, there's Valerie. I want to go hang out with Valerie for a minute. So that means I got to take a break. So we will... What will we do? Okay, so just for the record, I'm not happy with this to this. It probably would make more sense, frankly, if he just landed here. We could get into squash and stretch and bounce back, but honestly, look at that. See the way his leg goes up and his hand kind of flies out and then springs back? I think that works. Boom. Okay, so I'm going to take a break. I'll be back in a couple minutes, and probably with a tasty beverage. So sit tight, guys. In the meantime, I think what I'll do is just loop the show. We'll loop the latter part of episode 2, and I'll be back in a couple minutes. Zuko's over there chirping, going crazy. I think he's... Oop, I forgot my glasses. Hang on. Yeah, he's done chirping now. He's chirping because it's like, people have left the room. Okay. Alright, we can stop that. Get back to our... Okay, so... Not quite sure what all you saw there, but I'm sure you'll notice in the latter part of this episode, there's a few shots where Mel in particular is a little off character, and there's definitely some stuff that's going to have to go in and redo and fix up. But basically it's coming along. Okay, so here, per anime convention, I will say quite emphatically that almost certainly everything I'm doing here is not necessary, actually. To cut to the shot and actually have him in this position probably makes more sense. But as I said, it's a fun exercise, kind of an interesting challenge, so what the heck. The other thing I would also say is when he falls, there's probably too many frames, and this is the most egregious one, so I'm actually going to take it out. He's not falling fast enough. Boom. That's better. Yeah, that's better. Okay, cool. So what I might wind up doing is doing this pencil test, not necessarily even tightening it up that much, but I may never get around to the ink and paint. I may actually cut right to the final frame. I'll render it, cut it into the show. In fact, let's do that now. Let's do that now. Let's see what this looks like rendered. Okay, we need to take this out. Alright, and make sure my render settings are correct, because they're wrong, aren't they? Yep. Ooh, I'm glad I checked that. This is shot number 578. 578 slash, and then that's supposed to be JPEG. Okay, I'm going to render this and actually cut it into the show so I can just see how it's working, you know, in context. So Tahoma's got to think for a minute, and meanwhile we'll switch screens. Come over here and we're going to cut the rough into the show right here. 578. So is Tahoma done rendering? It looks like it is, so we should be able to go project media, and we're going to bring in shot number 578. There you are. Yep, open sequence 43. Man, I never have shots that are 43 frames long. Holy cow. What did I say? 578. There it is. Bring this in. Properties, disable resample. Okay, and obviously there's some stuff here that doesn't belong in there. So once he lands... Okay, so now we can get some context. I'll jump back to the other screen so I can put it on the preview. And Fala comes in. He panics and leaves. She realizes Tianara is gone. And why it's all scrubby like that, I'm not sure. Okay, so yeah, he's gonna jump out here, plops down, and then looks there. So I would say this is probably a little too quick. Boom, cut. Pretty close, pretty close. Okay, not bad, not bad. Like I said, it's a strange shot, but it's fun to do. So what the heck? Come back over here, close that, and now I've got my tasty beverage. My tasty beverage, which I have earned, is a martini. Not bad. I'm out of olives, though. I had to put some olive juice in there and a little bit of a jalapeno. It's a very strange type of martini. I've never heard of anyone else who does a martini like I do. But, you know, it's my martini. We don't want to be in preview mode like that, rendered mode. Okay, so let's just just keep feeling the progression of body parts, you might say. Okay, mistake. He's got his weight there. I think this is wrong. This is definitely wrong. We don't want that there. We actually don't want to see this hand. It's kind of hidden behind his butt or whatever. My sister likes Bloody Marys. Yeah, my mother likes a drink called a Dark and Stormy, which when I visited my mother, my biological mother, out in Denver, we drank some Dark and Stormies. I have the coolest mothers because I have two. I have two mothers. I have my adoptive mother that raised me, and then I've got my biological mother who bore me. She doesn't bore me in the sense of boring, of course. You know what I mean. That line is supposed to be there. Okay. So now the question becomes, where do these body parts wind up floating to? There's his calf. 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 Probably the other foot would be kind of sneaking up here like that. Something of that nature. It's a little bit small probably, but... And here it's kind of an interesting pose because you probably see a little bit of the bottom of his heel, but... So his toes would be like this. Right? Okay, and so this... Yep, something like that. Okay, so now, since we're just trying to work this out, let's put his belt there. And now his belt is going to kind of, it's going to curl around, so his torso is going to be like this. So this is where his, you know, his crotch is basically there. So there's, Alright, so if his crotch or his core, whatever you want to say, is here, then where does it go? Boom. That seems about right to me. Okay, so now the belt. Okay, and so he's going to be a little hunched over here. His body's curling around pretty good because he slams down and then settles up. So the only thing really wrong with this drawing is probably he actually needs to be scooted back a little bit there. Yeah, so he can kind of move from this position to this position more naturally. And I would probably say maybe he should be slightly taller like that. Yeah, that works. Okay, so what do we got here? Hand. Okay, so let's just play with the forearm now. Forearm coming around like this. Keep it loose, baby. Do it Glenn Keane style, right? Glenn Keane style. There's his wrist wrap. There's his forearm, elbow. So the elbow is actually here, and it comes down to here. And now it kind of whomps out like that. It's super foreshortened, so there's the elbow, there's the wrist wrap, and as he falls, then he... So now this is becoming a little confusing. Oh, I see. arm, deltoid, and so we really need to curl his body around like crazy. So we're getting a little bit of almost kind of a squash and stretch situation here, where we really need to exaggerate it. Yep, like that. This is a little off. Probably needs to be shifted a little bit like that. Neck. Okay, so yeah, we got some really good foreshortening there on the leg. A filthy Bloody Mary. I've never heard of a filthy Bloody Mary. Okay. Stretch that out like that. Okay, so there's that hand. He's got the bag in this hand. Deltoid. So how did I say I wanted to do? Oh, okay, so the arm is actually down here. So we'll just draw that with the arm wraps, and then we'll... One of the things, if you read Disney animation, The Illusion of Life, one of the things they say in the book is that for drawing anatomical forms, you tend to want to balance straight lines against curves. You don't generally want both sides to be a curve. So in this case, maybe this would be a straight line, and then you got the elbow, and so the curve would be on this side where his bicep is, right? Yeah, pretty much. And here he should have a wrist wrap. So he is definitely falling fast. Leg, this is his thigh, super foreshortened. Actually almost a little stretched out here. Again, curve on that side, straight line there. I mean, you know, for most people it's a good rule. It's not like 100% kind of thing, but okay, and we'll put the bag there and assume that it's still being held by this hand, which, so if we kind of make the meat of his fist there, then we have a bit of a problem here. We have to decide, well, what's this arm doing right here on this? I'm gonna kind of just hang his hand over his thigh. Oh man, shape design. Yep. It's basically just about movement in this case and maintaining volume reasonably well. Up here, whoops, I would say here, of course, you got a knee, thigh. I'm going to start darkening these lines a little bit to sort of clarify them, I guess. Skinny leg. So I'm going to go ahead and make these lines a little bolder since this is going to be my guide, obviously. Calf, here we can go S key, just grab this, Control C, and paste it into these two. Okay, so this one, so we'll kind of draw a little cube actually there, where his knee would be, right? Okay. So now, and this is kind of an interesting thing because his knee, his leg's turning around, right? He's actually shifting. He's spinning. He's actually spinning on this leg, his right leg. So there it is. And now this is anatomically kind of incorrect for him because he's not that beefy. You know, he's a skinny guy. So, but this is going into a really foreshortened state on most shows. Right. Okay. All right. Enough with the ticklish topics there, Dave. Okay, and we have a lot of latitude, remember, because this is, you know, most of the stuff is only on the screen for one frame. Dun, 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 dun. So he just falls into it. Boom. Okay, so you could probably criticize one more item, which is probably we want to have another drawing here. Delete that. We'll do this the simple way. Everything else settles except his head, and then you have just this little bit of extra motion to just kind of give it life, you know. Here, not too bad on that. Okay. Ear, chin. Don't see it here. There's the belt. So a little bit of crazy cloth flopping around. What are we doing with this leg? Okay, so we got this leg. Knee. Knee. The leg comes up. It sort of kicks out. Here, what are we? Okay, so this is a little bit floofy. This really needs to be. This probably needs to be more like that. Okay, so we'll do a straight line there. A little bit of squash and stretch. A little bit of stretch there is okay. Because again, it's going by pretty fast. So wonderful to watch and learn. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yep, just think about sticks and balls, really. Think about sticks and balls, and then think about the fundamental shapes that comprise it. Like, this is another good example of that Disney thing I was talking about. You know, you've got curves on the... You'd think of a bicep as having a curve, you know? Like this, you know, like a fat little curve. But, you know, they're quite correct. Well, obviously, they're the 9 old men. They knew what they were doing when it came to animation. Bulbous here, straight. Bulbous, all straight. You know who's actually really good at this type of thing? If you want to take this style of cartooning to an extreme where you can really learn a lot in a very loose and fun way, look up the books by Ben Caldwell. Ben Caldwell. He's got 2 books that are kind of seminal books on cartooning. You know, Christopher Hart has 10 trillion books on cartooning. Ben Caldwell's only got 2. There might be a third one, but I think there's only 2. So it's one's called fantasy cartooning, and the other is called action cartooning. And they're really, really good books for, like, if you wanted to do the S and C swoop and curve drawing style. Okay, this is a good exercise for your brain if you want to learn to draw what you see and do it in a cartoony way that can actually be surprisingly realistic if you practice it. And the idea would be, if I'm going to draw a character, let's just go down here. I'm just going to do this this way. Let's go like that. So I'm just going to add an extra frame here so I can doodle a little bit. Right? So if I was drawing a okay, Tahoma saving. So I'll take a drink of my martini and then we'll doodle. Your mileage may vary. This may not work for you because I don't know if it works for everybody. I know I found it kind of useful. So if you were going to think about anatomy, okay, so we're going to draw a person. So let's say we kind of have this shape of their head, and you know, you're going to kind of have this zone where they have their eyes and, you know, the nose, and so there's this is very rigid. Nothing wrong with that, but it's more like an approach that's trying to be maybe a little more realistic. So I'll have him looking off in that direction. Okay, so this is more you're sort of modeling form with straight lines, and actually really good portrait painters tend to do that. They tend to measure with their paintbrush, and then they'll actually just mark straight lines that delineate the form, and then they find it. What they do is they search and they find it, whether they're working from a live model or from a photograph. And the idea is to measure accurately, and then see shapes of value and things like this. Like this might be a shadow area right here, and so manifestly, what this really is just almost a triangle, right? But what happens is if you measure well and you get these shapes right, and you could be working upside down. You could actually paint a painting upside down, and if you get the individual shapes right, this will actually help you to not think about symbolism, like what you think a face is. You don't want to think about that when you're doing a portrait or a painting. You want to think about what are the actual shapes of value that I want to fill in. That's really what you want to be anchored on, because if you do that, then what will happen is when you look at it right side up again, it will look right, and you'll actually do more accurate work. Now, this is not what I was talking about with the cartooning thing. The opposite approach, you might say, would be I'm gonna look for swoopy shapes like this, either a C or sometimes it's an S, but it's usually just a C. It's like an inverted C or a forward C, right? And so you say, okay, my character is going to be, I'm just going to kind of find these shapes, and I'm working these different directions against each other, right? Right. So here's so this would be and sometimes you might say, well, I'm going to do it the opposite way. Instead of that, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go ahead and make this convex instead of concave. And then you might, and you just play around with feeling how just working these different curvatures together, what you find is it's kind of freaky, because all of a sudden a character starts to emerge. And I have found that if you're doing caricatures like of famous people or whatever, by looking at the character and just seeing what the main arcs are, you may discover that you actually find it easier to do an accurate caricature. Because what happens is, if the basic arcs are correct, even if they're exaggerated and stretched out, it'll still begin to take the form and exude the character of that person that you're drawing the caricature of, right? And there's no right answer. You can make it look cool whether you use a convex or a concave shape, and it's just kind of feeling these swoopy shapes, blah, 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 blah. So I don't even know why I got into that, but it's stuff that I don't really do a lot on this thing, because I mean, it's an anime, and for the most part I've been trying to adhere to the somewhat loosely to the visual convention of anime, because that's fun to do too. It's a restriction, it's a limit, and limits always make you they make you better, and they make you creative. If I was going to draw a girl, for example, this is really kind of funny, but I had the hardest time drawing anime girl faces, because it was so alien to me. If I'm going to draw a girl, what I tend to do is I'm going to be doing something like this. Okay, it's like I said, I kind of was doing a Frazetta knockoff yesterday, right? So I'd be maybe something like this, and then maybe you got all that Frazetta hair out there, and you got this beautiful form, she's got her bosom here, and you got to think about the cage of her ribs, and then her belly, and then sometimes there's a little bit of a fat area there, and then you got to make sure that you don't make those hips too too narrow actually, right? And you know, I'm making this as like an action type thing where maybe she's holding a sword, you know, and just the way the thighs are sort of attached to the you know, it's just a beautiful thing. You know, the human form is an amazingly fun thing to work with. And I don't, you know, you don't see that a lot here on this anime project, right? Because it's just not really what it's about. But yeah, you do see it to a degree. You know, I've watched 200 and in the last couple of months, I've watched well over 200 episodes of Fairy Tail. I actually liked the show. Didn't think I would, but I did. And they do a really nice job on some of the anatomy stuff. You know, and then when you're making a cartoon, you begin to simplify it. You say, well, can I make this line? Let me do that one again. You know, can I make this line just a simple form? It's like poetry. What is poetry? Poetry is how can I express an idea? And I don't like poetry generally. I actually have no. I mean, I'm a songwriter. I've written a lot of songs, so I guess that's poetry. But you know, traditional spoken poetry doesn't really do much for me. But the idea behind it is really interesting because what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, how do I convey the idea and the emotion with as few words as possible? How can I choose exactly the right words so that I pack the meaning into as concise a package as possible, right? And so anyway, that's kind of what you're doing here is you're saying, well, now what is the least I can do so that there's just no mistaking what we're seeing? You know what I mean? And to be able to practice that and embrace those limits and embrace the simplicity of it is in some respects is harder than doing a photorealistic, you know, drawing or painting. Actually, her shoulder here is a little out of whack for sure, but you know, we gotta have the other arm out here and ears and blah blah blah, and she's a little off balance too. But I mean, this is, if I was just like killing time and drawing for myself, this is the type of thing I'd be drawing. You know, I wouldn't be drawing Mel. Although I do like drawing Tianara because I do actually think she's really beautiful. I don't think I always do a great job of drawing her, but I definitely enjoy her as a character, and it's part of the challenge is making her beautiful, yet, you know, making her emote, showing her when she's irritated and things like that, and it's definitely a challenge, but it's a good challenge. Okay, so here we got a knee. I love experimenting with movement, squash and stretch with cat figures. The cat is once... Yeah, oh my gosh. You know, the thing is... Well, hang on one second. Let me check. Okay, so OBS just reconnected. Okay, so like in the evening, when I'm just wanting to unwind or something, what I'll do is sometimes I'll paint, right? Real painting. So like this is an example of something I painted just a couple nights ago. So, and it's really challenging because it's watercolor, and you know, watercolor is so unforgiving. Here's another one. This was 2 or 3 nights ago, right? But this is the one I did last night, and it was the first time I've ever done it. I literally did a copy. I did a knockoff of a Frazetta painting, and you know, I don't know that I did a great job, and of course Frazetta painted with oils and I'm using watercolor, but wow, it is definitely every bit as challenging as creating animation. In fact, I would actually have to say animating is easier for me. But you know, what a cool thing to just be able to do, you know. And the thing is that I was telling Valerie that that Frazetta knockoff, that painting is something that I've had in the back of my mind for 30 years. I mean, like since high school, I never actually made the effort to copy a Frazetta painting, to really deconstruct what he's doing with the form and the color and the shading. And again, I don't think I did necessarily a great job of it, but it was such a great exercise because I got that monkey off my back. You know? Did you? Okay, well, thank you, Sifter. I appreciate that. And it is actually a copy. I mean, it's not an homage. I literally copied a specific Frazetta painting, so there's not much to brag about in that because it's just a plain old copy. But I just wanted to see if I could do it, you know. And it was fun. It was fun, and it was humbling. But it really, you know, that's where I come from. I mean, that was what I did in high school. I wanted to draw comic books, you know. I wanted to draw comics. I was all about Frazetta and John Buscema, basically, you know, and I was never big on Kirby, although because I never thought his anatomy was that great, but I did come to appreciate his not everybody compliments his storytelling, and he was great at that. The thing that was crazy about Kirby is Kirby could have this really complex environment with all kinds of, you know, spaceships and just crazy stuff. And he would actually start in the middle of the page. He would start anywhere and just build out from there, and it would work. Okay, fine. Yeah, Sifter, right. Yeah, absolutely. And people do that all the time. It's absolutely, there's nothing wrong with doing it, man. It's a great way to learn. You know, and it will humble you. What a great way to just try to unpack you know, technique or whatever. It's not necessarily a substitute for instruction, but at the same time, I will say I've never had instruction for anything. So I'm not endorsing that necessarily, but I would say that I am living proof that you can do, you know, whether it's writing and directing films, whether it's animation, whether it's painting, composing music, you know, like the music in the video that plays when you come to my YouTube channel. You know, I scored that. I am living proof that you don't have to have formal training in anything in order to be able to do it. You just have to want to do it. You know, and God, I don't know why I want to do it, but I do. I really enjoy it. I've always been a creative guy. But as I was saying at the beginning of this live stream today, this has been actually almost a cathartic live stream to kind of share some of the things I've been talking about, because you know, there's a way to do this stuff where as a man, I can be sort of getting off on the idea that, you know, you're going to look at this and you go, wow, you know, wow, that's so cool. You know, one guy's doing that whole show. That's like, you know what? That is so empty, man. I'm not doing the, you know, I can just see so many areas in life where getting off on that ego has been just a proxy. It's been a piss poor substitute for really doing what you love and loving what you do. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, you know. I'm trying to do what I'm doing for the right reasons for myself. And I'm definitely having more fun with it. That's why I'm doing more pencil tests, because when it comes to animation, that's where I come from. That's my background. That's what drove me to be interested in animation in the first place, was reading. When I saved my money and bought a copy of Disney Animation, The Illusion of Life, when I was in high school. I wanted to create animation when I was in high school. And there was no way to do it, you know? There was no technology. There was no computers. It's actually funny. Did I see the word Hildebrandt? Yes. Yeah, I was not a fan of Tim and Greg Hildebrandt. I actually never thought they were that great of painters, to tell you the truth. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. They are great painters, but because the Hildebrandts are actually a great one to bring up, because when you look at a Hildebrandt painting, you can say, well, they've got really good. They used acrylics, not oils, but you know, did they have great technique in their own way and in their kind of their own style? Yes, they did. But it didn't work for me because the way they drew their characters and rendered their characters didn't have that spark of life in it that I saw in Frazetta or even Boris, although Boris used photo reference. So, I mean, Boris Vallejo. I mean, if the truth be known, his wife, Julie Bell, in my opinion, is actually the better painter of the two, if you guys know who Boris and Julie are. But I tell you, kudos to Boris. You know, here's this guy who's this fantasy painter, bodybuilder guy, and he finds this woman who's a female bodybuilder who modeled for him for these paintings, who it turns out paints as well as he does, and they wound up getting married. And you know, what a wonderful thing for them to have the life they've had together. And now Julie is mostly doing wildlife type painting, actually. You know, so it's funny because it's always a master study to people until they see you studying a cartoonist's work, then they think you're crazy. Arguably, it's a waste of time in terms of show story. You know, in terms of the storytelling, it's probably largely unnecessary. What is necessary is this pose, you know, and we could cut right to it. So this is an exercise in animation for the fun of it, you know. Yes, the colors. Well, again, using acrylics, those guys, their work definitely had very vivid colors, no question about it. And you know, they're kind of icons in the fantasy art world, largely because of the Tolkien stuff they did back in the I don't know when it started. I would guess in the late 70s, but I'm not sure about that. I think so. I'm pretty sure because by the time I was aware of fantasy art, they were already a thing, and so that would have been about 1982, you know, type period of time. All right, let's see what we got in terms of movement. Not too bad. I still wonder if the fall is a little bit slow. Bop. Nah, I kind of like the way he eases into it, actually. Yeah, that's not bad. So, anyway, I tell you, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I don't think I'm going to get into ink and paint tonight. But I tell you that with all sincerity that I appreciate you guys being here. And, you know, I talk about all this stuff that's so wonderful, you know. To be able to do what I'm doing, this is actually miraculous when I think about it. When I stop back and just think about it. For me to be able to sit here and just learn and just execute, just try. I'm just trying to do what I'm doing. And by the way, to get back to Sifter's point, I can do about well, let's put it this way. I can create a 24-minute anime episode in a slow enough period of time. I just said slow when I meant fast. I can create an episode in 4 months. Okay? And for my distributor, that's fast enough. 3 episodes a year is fine. They don't care. They're good with that. If this thing starts to grab in terms of sales and awareness, then I may look at hiring a team, you know, and getting some other people involved just to speed up the animation process, you know. At this point, there's just no reason to. You know, there's nobody out there telling me this has to get done by any certain time. At this point, I got about a year into it, and I have it won't be long before I have 2 completed episodes ready to go. So they're ready, you know, I'll be able to get them out there and released, and I'm reasonably optimistic that it will find its audience and that people will enjoy it and all the rest. So, you know. But what I was trying to say a little bit ago was that for me to be able to sit here and just do what I'm doing and have you guys out there, like, listening to me and being there, just being there to talk to is a wonderful, amazing thing. There's never been a better time to be doing these kinds of things. You know, for us to be able to connect in that way, just like unheard of, you know, back in the day. Meaning when I was growing up or whatever. I had to delete Tahoma. It's too laggy. I'm using Blender. Dude, I tell you what, Jaman. Absolutely. I just told, I actually just told Claude Bayo, who's in the chat here, this, I think, yesterday. If someone has a well-rounded, in other words, you're not just wanting to do 2D animation, but you're also interested in CGI and all that goes with it. And there's a lot that goes with it. Motion tracking, you know, compositing, all these things. Blender is the most complete tool I'm aware of. And for 2D animation, the Blender Grease Pencil is absolutely very, very, very good. For me, on this particular project, it's not the right tool. I've tried it. There are shots in my show that were done in Blender. Quite a few, actually. But overall, I'm both enjoying the process and getting better results working with Tahoma. So that's my preference. But I mean, Blender is, you know, Blender's the shit. You know, it's an amazing, complete, powerful program. It's just that in the day-to-day cranking out shot after shot after shot of a real show, you do bump into some things about the Blender Grease Pencil that for me tend to, it's like going to be the all-in-one, I can do it all. Blender would be it. There's not even a question. Not even a question about it. I've been using Blender since 1999. Okay, when there were about 4 Blender users. I was the first guy in the world to create a Blender training video. Back in around the year 2000, 2001. I know I've told this story before. I went out to SIGGRAPH in New Orleans in the year 2000, and I met Ton Rosendahl, who is the guy that created Blender. He wrote the program. And back then, it was just him, you know. I met Ton, and I met Bart Velhausen, who went on to develop a website called Blender Nation. I don't know how that's doing, but I'm sure it's probably out there. Blender's really good for roughs and layouts, but inking and coloring get tricky. I agree with Sifter. That's basically why I don't use it. It's basically why I don't use it. I have my preferred. I have Blender 2.93 on my system. My preferred tool in the Blender camp would be 2.81a. So I like the fact that the masking is a little bit simpler. In 2.93 it's more powerful, but you trade that off in exchange for a little more housekeeping and setup required. But yeah, I mean, you know, go here and your F-Draw pen, you know, it's I need to change my color here, so you gotta charcoal ink. Blender's the thing that where it gets a little weaker would be in the integration of the the grease pencil into the rigging side of the equation, because if you actually try to parent a grease pencil object to a rig, like a bone for bone deformation, it falls apart quite quickly. Now, what is masking? That's a great question. Okay, so masking means, Jaman, on my shadows layer here, if I want to, here's a shadow filled color, so it's a filled black color that's semi-transparent. Okay, so here I've got, I go, well, that's not what I meant to do. Let me hit undo. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm going to draw a shape here. So I draw this shape, and now I have this shadow. Well, if I turn on masking, then this layer is clamped, in essence, to the layers below it. And that's essentially how masking works in Krita too. Now in Blender 2.93, you can actually set up a layer to be masked by any other layer, and the stacking order doesn't matter. But the trade-off is that you have to go down here into the probably in the adjustments or something. I can't remember because I don't have it in front of me, but you have to go in and actually specify what you want to have masking what. It's extremely flexible in exchange for a little bit more setup work, but that's true with everything in Blender. It's always a trade-off between simplicity and power. Do you want your program to be simple, or do you want it to be more powerful and flexible? With Tahoma does everything I need to do for this project in a pretty streamlined way. So if you were going to go to the Blender grease pencil, it'd basically probably be because of the sculpting aspect. You could always restrict either X or Y axis and get a true 2D GP rig, unless I'm missing something. Well, what I'm saying, Sifter, is that you can try it for yourself, but what you're going to find is if you draw a character in the Blender grease pencil, you fill it, you do your shadows, you get everything set up, and then you go ahead and create an armature rig. And then you parent the grease pencil object to the armature rig so you can deform it. You're going to find that it falls apart. It doesn't work that well. Now, I haven't gone in and fastidiously set up vertex groups and done all the things you need to do to really make that work. So it might be better than at first blush. By contrast, if you take a 3D model, or if you take a 2D image that's just mapped to a plane in Blender and you parent that to an armature, the deformations are extremely intuitive. The automatic vertex grouping that are set up based on the bone's distance from, you know, the stuff that it's supposed to deform is very intuitive. It usually comes out pretty darn close to what you expected. With the grease pencil, that's just not the case. With the grease pencil, auto rigging, like quick and dirty rigging, just doesn't work. Now you can set up rigs where you have different grease pencil objects that are parented to each other. You can have empties or bones that become the parents of. I'll animate this whole thing, and then we'll get to the end of it, let's say. You know, so I get to the end here, and then I go, well, now I kind of want him to wiggle around or move his head or wiggle his toes or something, right? In that scenario, applying the plastic tool to just this frame and then adding some secondary animation with the plastic tool is like really easy. And it's pretty intuitive, although there are some hiccups you have to learn. But so anyway, I mean, the bottom line is that for this particular project, this seems to be the tool of choice. It's the sweet spot between simplicity, it's got the features I need, and if I really need to go deeper, I can go to Blender. You know? If I really want to do a particle effect, like for example, a good example actually. Let me take a drink of my tasty beverage. Okay, if you're going to do particle effects in Tahoma, which means you're going to go into the effects schematic, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to add a, where is it? Oh, here we go. Render particles. And now you can set up particle systems, and there's a bunch of defaults that do things like, as you can see, falling leaves, falling snow. And basically they work pretty well. And all you're doing is you're going to add this particle effect, and then you're just going to take a single level over here that maybe has a picture of a single snowflake, and you're going to pipe that into the particle system, and that will become your particle. So it's as simple as it can be as far as particle systems go. The downside with particles in Tahoma is they're actually not very performant, especially if the item you're using as a particle is animated or it uses several frames, that type of thing. All of a sudden, like, it takes a long time to render. Okay, now that's not the worst thing in the world. You can go have lunch while it renders. But if I wanted to do a really sophisticated particle system that I have real control over and it performs well, I'm going to Blender. Forget Tahoma. I'm going to Blender for that one. It just doesn't come up very often on this particular project. So anyway, I think I'm done for tonight. I've been having a lot of fun talking about it. So Sifters, I think Sifters sums it up very nicely. It's legit all that's needed in 2D animation for the most part. Yep. Closest match to Harmony that I'm aware of, and one that takes the throne is badass animation software. Yep, I agree. The big question is whether you love vectors. If you love vectors and you want to use vector levels, you're going to bump into some limitations, bugginess. Definitely the fill process is clunky with vector levels in Tahoma. If you love vectors because you want to create assets that you can then scale to any size in your frame and reuse over and over and over and over, then again, you might want to look at the Blender Grease Pencil, because functionally it is a vector format because everything's scalable and sculptable. Maybe I should illustrate that really quick. Okay, so I'll illustrate that super quick and then I'll call it a night. Alright, so let's just keep this as simple as possible. I'll take a skin color so that I can just draw a shape. Okay, so now I've drawn a character, and now I'm going to grab my charcoal ink so I can just draw over top of it. Okay, so we're keeping this as simple as possible. And so I'm going to just make a character, right? I'll give him a nose, and I'll make him happy. Okay, so now the thing is, in Blender, to be able to, for example, go into the sculpting mode and actually take this and start stretching it out and moving things around. And not only can you animate that, but you can also grab these keys. Let me see. I haven't been in Blender in a while, so I've got to remember. But basically, if you go in here between here, I believe it'd be on the channel. No, it's not the channel menu. It's up here. Go back to draw mode, and then I know how to do it in Blender 2.79, and I'm drawing a blank on how to do it in Blender. There it is. Okay, so then with Control Shift E, it actually goes ahead and interpolates all the in-betweens for you. So, you know, I mean, it's really, I mean, if you dive deep with it, it's super powerful, right? Real good. And Blender 2.93 improves on Blender 2.8 because they've really gotten the fill tool dialed in. And I'm not going to explain how or why here tonight, but you can take my word for it that the fill operations are greatly improved in Blender 2.93. For me personally, there's some trade-offs in both complexity and general workflow that make Blender 2.93 not as fun to use. I like Blender 2.81a specifically for grease pencil animation, but you know, that's just me. So anyway, I think that's it. I've probably bored you guys long enough. I appreciate you guys being here, and it's fun to bat these things around. And so with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up and say